When we think about how do we equip South Africans, many of whom can't read and write at this point, for the fourth industrial revolution, there's really three parts to thinking about that. The first is understanding a framework of what are the skills that one needs in the fourth industrial revolution. And a framework which I particularly like is based on the OECD's framework, which also comes from academic institutions like the Rand Corporation and so on. And they talk about the skills that we need as being at 4 levels. They talk about digital specific skills. This is the ability to code, to write software, to configure networks, to generate artificial intelligence applications. These are digital specific skills. Then you get what they call digital generic skills. So these are the skills necessary for a nurse, for example, to be able to use the tech available to him or her, to be able to be effective in their job. Or for a teacher to use the technology available and be effective in that technology to help them teach. Or an engineer, or an accountant, or whatever skill you're talking about. The third level is what are called digital enabling skills. And these are the so-called softer skills like creativity, complex problem solving, perseverance, good communication, teamwork ability, empathy, and things like that, which ironically in a digital age, most scholars would agree are actually becoming more important rather than less important. And the data actually shows that these are not skills that you are born with. These are skills that can actually be developed, and it's important that we do so. So the fourth category in a way is the most challenging one, and this is what they call digital foundational skills, which really has two halves to it. The first is really digital literacy, which is about being familiar with digital devices and so on, but more importantly even, being able to navigate the internet and autonomously find information. It's what they call targeted navigation skills. The other half of the foundational skills is probably the most challenging. And the evidence shows overwhelmingly that people are more effective in a digital environment if they have high levels of literacy and numeracy. So numeracy and literacy are fundamental to people being able to participate in the digital economy and be effective in a digital world. And that, of course, is the huge challenge facing South Africa. Which brings me to the second part of the answer. So what do we do about this? Because not everybody is going to need to have digital specific skills. We probably only maybe 10% of the population actually need to code and be able to configure networks and write AI. But everybody needs to be gainfully employed in a digital economy. And in my opinion, we've really got to approach this on a multi-pronged approach. So first, we do have to adjust and adapt our basic education system. We have to improve the outcomes, including in numeracy and literacy, which are sometimes considered slightly unfashionable subjects. But the point is, if we don't equip our children with those skills, in a way we're doing them a disservice in preparing them for the digital economy. So we have to rethink how and what we teach at a basic education level. But that doesn't address the fact that we've got millions and millions of adults who don't have the necessary proficiency, both from the point of view of basic digital literacy as well as literacy and numeracy. And therefore I do think there's a role for extensive adult education. And particularly, I think companies have an obligation to help skill and reskill their workforce and provide foundational training to those parts of their workforce that perhaps don't have the foundational skills necessary to thrive in the digital economy. So that's the second part. I think it has to be a team effort between educational institutions, the state in terms of how we think about education and what we teach, but the business sector has a huge role to play, as does labor, to make sure that there's a willingness and that this is a collaborative effort rather than an adversarial one. And then finally, it is important to realize that not everything's going to digitalize overnight. There will be some jobs that remain, I don't want to say immune, but relatively immune to digitalization for some time. And we do need to think about how we create opportunities in those areas. So for example, artisanal work, roles that are high in unstructured dexterity. Most people would agree that those are not really going to be automated in the short term. How do we encourage people to get skills that are rich in unstructured dexterity, which is typically what you find in artisanal roles, but also roles that are high in creative intelligence, roles that are high in relational intelligence. These are roles that are not going to be digitalized in the short to medium term, and I do think we need to emphasize those.